Welcome, baseball fans. It is time once again for the Running the Bases podcast. I'm Tucker Wells, joined as always by Coach Jordan Bounds. Coach, haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, all
Still
right.
alive.
Still alive. That's a good thing. Did you have a good Memorial Day?
Yeah, it was good. Got to babysit for the grandkids.
Nice.
Some recently.
Nice. Hot dogs.
Saw a bunch of bad movies.
Yeah, that's good. Sounds pretty American to me. How is your grandson is playing some ball and
No, their
getting pretty
season
good?
has ended, and he was better this year. A lot of improvement.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. Well, we're going to talk about improvements in technology for our special topic today. And we're going to pay our respects to the late greatest, Muhammad Ali. But out of the box, let's talk about the draft. Draft is on Thursday, the MLB first-year player draft. Let me ask you this question right off. Are you ever excited about the MLB draft?
Not really.
I'm not either.
It's difficult. I mean, I don't know any of these people. I mean, you can actually see films of some of them pitching in high school or something, but you can't tell much. It's really tough. It's tougher to evaluate a baseball prospect than it is a basketball or a football prospect who are closer to being ready.
Right, yeah. And, scouts admit to such things that, just because a kid throws 100 in high school or college, more likely, doesn't mean that they're thinking like how their arm is gonna progress over time and whatnot. Probably hitters the same way. Can you think of a time where you were like really excited about the draft, like Chipper in 1990? Did you pay closer attention that year because the Braves?
Because they had the first pick, he wasn't our first pick. We wanted this pitcher who said he wasn't going to come here. I forgot his name now. I think he had a hyphenated name. And then we took Chipper instead, which was a much better pick.
Right.
And apparently that was Bobby's doing too.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find that number one overall that we should have gotten or were going to get.
We wanted to get, but he said he wouldn't sign with the Braves. Said he was going to go to college or something, but he didn't want to go with the Braves then because the Braves were miserable.
Right, sure. It's similar to now. That's interesting, though, that maybe we stumbled into, the better pick.
Right. Well, we did. I mean, it happens all the time.
Right. Well,
you look at you have to go back at least 5 years, but to evaluate any kind of draft, 5 years from, ago, they had Garrett Cole and Sonny Gray. And
I think that was the Bryce Harper year.
I don't think so.
Maybe that was 2010.
Yeah, 2011, you had Jackie Bradley, Mookie Betts, a lot of good players, but, they're interspersed with all these people we've yet to hear from.
Right, yeah.
I think Garrett Cole was the actual first pick in that draft.
Right, because the Pirates had the first pick for like 3 years in a row.
More than that, I think.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about this because number one overall, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in all drafts, that's the most talked about important thing.
Sure.
Do you think it's better to take a pitcher versus a hitter? Or what's the greatest risk?
I think to take the best player available, I'm sorry, but that whether that's a pitcher or a shortstop. I mean, right now the Braves are in dire need of a catcher, but they're not going to go out and draft a catcher just because he's the top catcher on the draft board.
Right, yeah, because that catcher may be 200 overall. Right. Makes sense. Now that we, with the MLB Network, of course, airing the draft and then you can follow it online, is it more exciting? Is it better for the common fan because we have more information available, or is it
a little bit? But if the Braves get that guy from Mercer, or if they get that pitcher from Florida, I'll okay.
Yeah. Good job by you. We'll see how it works out in 5 years.
Yeah, right.
So an interesting part of the CBA, these bonus pools, because you have like the situation with JD Drew, or what you just actually enlightened me about with the Braves in 1990. So with bonus pools, you have a monetary value to all of your draft picks, and it allows you to sign your first round draft picks easier and better. So does that make the dollar value of the pick greater than the pick itself?
I think it's looked upon that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would think so too.
It is an asset to your ball team.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think increased with the significance of draft picks in trades.
Right.
With the CBA coming up, and it's been talked about routinely that the qualifying offer costing a draft pick, so on and so forth. If that gets taken out in the new CBA, how do you think the draft itself would change? Would it go back to the value of the...
I don't see the draft itself changing that much.
Right. Maybe the value of the earlier picks changing if you're never going to lose one to free agent?
Could. I think it would just increase it.
Increase it?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're never going to lose them, it increases the value.
That's a good point. Well stated. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Yankees are going to care either way. It'll still be a free agent.
Who knows? The Yankees are they're in a changing mode. It'll be interesting.
Right.
They may be sellers.
For the first time in how long would you think? Since the early 90s?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, when they were drafting Jeter and all those guys at all. So if you're the Philadelphia Phillies sitting at number 1, you use the pick or would you trade it? Considering they're doing pretty well this year, their current crop of talent.
I would not trade the pick unless I didn't have a good feel for who I was drafting, number 1. If you don't think he is a sure bet, then trade the pick for 2 that are a little bit lower. It's a numbers game.
Yeah. Biggest bust at number 1 overall that you can think of off the top of your head. Go.
No, I can't think of one right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
For the overall number 1, no. It would probably be somebody the Braves drafted. No.
Yeah. The Braves or perhaps the Astros recently, or whoever got picked ahead of Jeter, I guess. Although A-Rod may be the biggest bust at number 1 if as it's played out. All right, so we'll see what happens. We'll have more to talk about post-draft because that'll be more interesting. So let's go first to third. Measuring performance and improvements with technology. Back in the 40s, you had Bob Feller throwing against a motorcycle.
Or his ball was clocked by a motorcycle. He wasn't throwing against a motorcycle.
Right.
The speed of his ball was clocked by a motorcycle.
Right. For those not familiar with this, back in, I forget what year exactly, it's in the movie Fastball, which, by the way, every baseball fan should see this movie. Have you seen the Fastball documentary? It's available on streaming. You can get it on Amazon Prime. Then you can get it on iTunes. Made by the same team that did the Jackie Robinson movie recently, 42. Okay. It's great. It's all about how, it's about the fastball. It's about the very things we're going to be talking about today. But so that was, 70 plus years ago. How accurate did you think that metric was of the motorcycle? I think we should bring it back.
I think in the 40s, it was probably pretty accurate.
I think that should be an all-star competition is, throwing against competition against like a cheetah running or
the
Usain Bolt. I mean,
that's just what owners want to see is their star pitchers out trying to throw as hard as they can in a meaningless competition.
Well,
I'm sure the Marlins would love to see Jose Fernandez just trying to throw it past
a speeding cheetah.
Yeah.
He's just competitive enough that he may want to do it.
I'd also like to see you train that cheetah to run in a straight line.
We'd have to design a whole thing for it. I don't know. We'll work on it later. So talking about pitching and metrics. So obviously we advanced through, before Bob Feller even, you had Walter Johnson throwing through a ballistics testing apparatus. What do you think about measuring pitching in this day and age?
Well, the radar gun we know is overused, and they're two different guns apparently, and one is a little bit faster than the other. But I don't think, we've been in Atlanta forever, and our success, I mean, smolts through gas, but it was always the case when Glavin or Maddox started throwing harder than normal, they started getting hit.
Right, yeah.
So, I think there is too much emphasis placed on the speed of a pitch. Now, when you see somebody's speed decrease in a start or something, when he starts slipping from 91 to 88, then maybe he's lost something. If you don't see that ordinarily, but 3 miles an hour may not seem like much, but when you're watching it on the field, you can see, the catcher can turn to you and say, yeah. So
it's also the difference between the hitter seeing it and not seeing it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a tool. I think it's overused, and we have a tendency to do that with technology anyway. Our technology is always ahead of the sociology that accompanies it.
Yeah. In pitching, if you're a pitcher, now take it away from a scout or a team trying to evaluate a pitcher using radar gun, StatCast, all these things. But if you're trying to develop your craft as a young pitcher, what do you think is the most valuable tool available? Because now, you have these, you can attach these motion sensors and, with computers measure how much torque you're putting on your muscles, your where you're releasing the ball and all these things. Do you think that's really changing the landscape for how good pitchers are early, or how much they can improve over time?
I think a lot of the technology there is really meant to produce muscle memory and allow you to always throw from the same slot and always, in keeping you within the same motion and everything, which is so important. If you're going to ask me what is the greatest advancement for pitching, there's no doubt it's Tommy John surgery.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest advancement in baseball history in terms of pitching.
Which, by the way, Johnny Venters, I believe, is about to have his third.
Oh, no.
It's so sad. I mean, but hey,
I didn't know he was still pitching.
I didn't either, but I mean, 3 Tommy Johns later, maybe he can continue. And yeah, that is the greatest advancement that, that Chris Medlin could be pitching right now after 2 is
right.
Unbelievable. So let's switch to hitting then, because this is, I mean, in your estimation, is it easier to train a hitter to be better or to train a pitcher to be better at their craft? I mean, if you have a pitcher that has potential but has issues with their delivery or their release point or how much break they can get on a curveball versus a hitter who's got a bad swing or not following through or opening up too much at the hips.
I don't know that I can give an answer to that. I mean,
from your days managing, young talent, even
I had to look for. I never pitched, or really never pitched. But I could recognize if a pitcher's balance was off, if he was rushing it, if he wasn't, if he's throwing against his body. And but this is really kind of rudimentary observations. I couldn't teach how to throw a curveball very well. I taught pitchers how to cut fastballs and things like that, but and throw a slider. But as far as hitting is, I think, so much more difficult. And so much of it is where your hands are and things that there seem to be more parts to hitting the ball than there is to throwing the ball. And I know that anybody who pitches doesn't believe that, but
right.
I mean, everybody's always said hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so with technology, the advancements in hitting tools and technology seems to lap pitching. The Tampa Bay Rays have a virtual reality machine that apparently costs in the mid 6 figures to install and set up and utilize. What do you? We've both seen video of this. What do you think of the? If this machine existed when you were playing, how much better of a hitter would you have been?
Oh, I was an idiot, so I don't know that I would have been any better.
Wouldn't help.
No, my problem was more between my ears than.
There's no technology to help that. I'm sorry.
No, there's not.
So this machine, though, this VR machine has a holographic image of the specific pitcher and shows their exact windup and delivery and the break of the ball.
That's a major league tool. That is not because you're going to see the same pitchers over and over again. You're playing in college and you're playing Vanderbilt this weekend. You've never seen them before, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The same thing is, and really until you are playing pro ball, it's more about you than it is about your opposition. You need to get yourself ready and prepared. And the VR machine that is in Florida that's a major league tool, a tremendous tool.
Oh, yeah.
But only something that a professional ball player would benefit from.
Right.
Or more or less. I mean, anybody could, but sure it would help if you saw the pitcher you were about to face. But I don't think that's possible to get every pitcher everywhere, on this thing.
Below the major league ranks.
Right.
And just, I mean, minor league pitchers too. I doubt it could be, the VR could be implemented on minor league teams. There's a lot of new tech that we could talk about, but as far as hitting goes for young players, what do you see as the greatest newfangled tool out there for the young hitter?
I'm not certain they're always positive. Just like the radar gun, excuse me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Doesn't appear to be. It's not always a positive. I think the same thing could be said about some of the batting tools. The Easton Mako Torque bat, this bat that has the rotating handle, which allows you to drive the bat through the zone further before you roll your hands, which allows you to keep the bat in the hitting zone longer.
Is this legal for in game, or is this just a?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And every high school, college player in the world is using this now. Cost a fortune.
How much does one such bat go for?
About $250.
That is a lot.
And I have no idea what its lifetime is. I mean, most aluminum bats have a certain amount of hits in them. But my problem with this, whereas this it really would help your contact points with this type of bat, and it's shown to have done this. I mean, the bat's only about a year and a half old, but it may mess up your swing once you turn to wooden bats.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, we know that aluminum bats have it's hurt evaluation of people and everything because the forget how hard the ball comes off the bat. You're able to hit it on a larger. The sweet part is bigger.
Yeah, the sweet spot is extended. Sure.
Now bats have changed. I mean, whether forever. The bats were primarily ash until Bond started hitting 5 grillion home runs with maple bats, and
it wasn't just what was in the bat. That was
I understand.
Helping him do that.
But that was also when all of a sudden there were maple bats everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, what's the guy who's in Miami right now?
Ozuna?
Yeah, who's going to all of Bonds' bats.
Yeah.
We won't say anything else, but
yeah, I know.
Too
many jokes to be made of the Marlins and their hitting department.
But in terms of training, there've been so many different tools throughout the years for hitters. The restriction things, there used to be like something that had wings on the bats to they're donuts and weighted bats and rubber bats that.
The infomercial with it has a weight, and then as you swing, the weight goes. Right.
There are one thing I use a lot. There were these bats that were just like sticks all the way up, where kind of almost like small fungo bats, but still were hard, and they. But all of it it all gets down to the swing, you know.
Well, yeah, and to that note, that's where this 3D modeling, I think, is such maybe the most valuable tool for a young
camera. Is, you know, I mean, when I played, nobody filmed anything.
Right, yeah.
You know, so I mean, yeah, there are all sorts of advancements that way. You know, I mean,
Right, but this I think it's called ZEP technology.
Right.
You know, it literally creates the 3D model of the whole swing where you're coming through the zone, where your hands are, and you can see the image, the model, and rotate around it. And I think that is way more valuable than the 2D camera. But
oh, sure, but I mean, in terms of advancements, the 2D camera was pretty big.
It was, yeah, it absolutely was.
Having films.
Yeah, I mean, I before the 2D camera, what was there other than just swinging a lot?
I mean, there have been people have realized the hitting has evolved so much. The model bats, Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron used the same model bat, but Babe Ruth was 44 ounces at its least, and Hank Aaron's was 34. You know,
Right.
a tremendous difference. Yeah, an interesting fact about bats, you know, is the maximum length of a major league bat is 42 inches. And
Did
that's
not know that.
And that's been the maximum length since 1869. It has never changed. Nobody, you know, has ever challenged that. I don't know if it. I mean, Al Simmons, Step in the Bucket. Al Simmons supposedly had a 38 or a 38-inch bat. But I don't know that anybody's ever had a 40-inch bat. Now,
Wouldn't that have something to do with the actual width of the plate, though? Like, if you had a bat that was longer than that, you would have unfair coverage, like, into the other batter's box.
well, perhaps. I mean, I can see why you would have
Yeah.
a limit. I mean, but swinging a 40-ounce bat would be weird anyway.
40-inch bat.
40-inch bat, yeah.
Yeah.
A 40-ounce bat would be tough to. I mean,
Yeah.
today, I mean, it used to be that everybody swung these clubs. You know,
Your
Babe
boy
Ruth-
Clemente had one of the heaviest bats.
Well, yeah, but like Ruth swung a 54-ounce bat at one point. That's like, you know, swinging half of a car or something, you know. And today, you never find anybody above a 36 ounce. It was a big deal when Willie Stargell told Chipper to go to a heavier bat, and he went to a 38 ounce bat, which helped him tremendously as a right-handed hitter. I mean, and Chipper was like the heaviest bat around.
Yeah. I wonder who's swinging the heaviest in this day and age. I don't know if that's common knowledge.
I don't know. I do know the smallest bat ever supposedly was Wee Willie Killer. It used a 30-ounce. And that's like little.
Oh,
thingy
30
but-
inch.
30 inch. Yeah, I keep
right.
saying ounce. 30 inch.
There is a
bat.
difference between
Yeah.
the two measurements.
Yes.
Well, considering that, you know, the bat has changed, you know, Bob Feller throwing it back to pitching here. Bob Feller measuring himself against a moving motorcycle to estimate he was throwing 98 miles an hour. That hasn't changed in 70 years. This documentary, Fastball, makes a great point about how, you know, the peak of human performance as a pitcher hasn't changed in 100 years. So is any of this technology that we have today really for pitchers? Can this technology help somebody throwing 92 start throwing 97?
Perhaps. But that's not that important. I mean,
Right. That's true.
You know, Maddox could have thrown a couple miles an hour faster. Wouldn't have really mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's movement, placement. There's so many.
So is any of it any better than just having a good coach?
Oh no, I don't. I think having a good coach is probably more important than any of that. A good coach would be able to utilize these tools well.
True. Yeah.
The advancements in the game, though, I think there have been. It's not just about hitting the ball and pitching. I still think the Tommy John stuff is the most
significant part.
Of anything. I mean, if there are people today that will say sabermetrics are the biggest technological advancement, and where we can measure departure speeds and everything,
right?
Balls,
StatCast,
yes, and all that stuff. I don't know how much that really helps a hitter. Like, hey, the ball's leaving my bat 2 miles an hour faster.
Michael Wilbon did this article recently in regards to basketball about how players aren't, thinking in terms of their metrics. Like, oh, this is a long 2. Let me back up and shoot a 3 because it's all in the feel of it.
Sure,
so into baseball, I would think the same thing.
The game has, for a game that prides itself on not changing, it is constantly changed. Supposedly, the idea of being able to compare players of one era against another, that doesn't work. You can't compare anybody before 1947 to today, and what they did.
Right.
The biggest advancements that have been made in the game been the baseball itself after Mays is killed. I mean,
Chapman.
Chapman is killed by Mays, and thus the advent of Babe Ruth. When I first started watching baseball, everybody left their gloves on the field for the opposition to use.
I think we should go back to that.
I think you'd have a lot of people complaining about that.
But it would make baseball fun again. They'd have to fumble with that,
I don't.
Anyway, I just
you look at the advancements in protective gear, the catching stuff is shoot. We have helmets, I mean, think of the difference that it means having a helmet that with the ear flap down. I mean, that makes a tremendous difference. Tony Conigliaro would have liked to have had that,
no kidding.
Although,
by the way, Giancarlo Stanton, it's like the noise is getting louder and louder that he's not comfortable with the inside pitch still.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I can understand. I can,
Well, to that point, I mean, let's stick with the helmet for a second. How close are we to just having full face masks?
I don't know about that. They may. I mean, you look at what catchers wear now. They're like hockey masks, or a lot of them are. But there are a lot of catchers that won't even think of going those because they didn't grow up with them. Maybe we might have something close to that. I mean, we're going to have. It's constantly evolving. The equipment is.
Which is where the game evolves with it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I agree that, for all of our traditions in baseball, that it is constantly changing. I mean, the ball seems to change every 6 or 7 years. I mean, we were talking earlier podcast about how more tightly wound the balls seem to be. So, but yeah, about StatCast, measuring the exit velocity of that home run, it's like, does that make the home run worth anymore?
I don't think they do it on television, but that's the measurement for the home run doesn't fit into the general exit speed. That's different than the ones that are in the park.
Right. But just how fast it's traveling off the bat.
Right. The biggest in watching the game, the biggest change has been instant replay.
Yeah.
For technology, and I'm not certain that that's a positive.
It's coming under fire for sure. I mean, it seems that too many things are reviewable, and yet when they go to review them, it's so questionable how they're making their determination, and it's slowing down the game.
It really is slowing
painfully
down.
Yeah.
It is slowing down the game, and I mean, whereas they've addressed it so the manager doesn't have to just get out there and stand for a while until they view. I mean, but I don't know that it has made the game. It seems to have taken away some of the human element out of it.
Sure. Well, starting next year, it seems we're going to have intentional walks are going to just be a signal or something.
Right.
What do you think the signal should be for an intentional walk? Does the pitcher have to like bow down to the to the hitter?
Well, in
Does he take his hat
amateur
off?
ball where you don't have to do that, where you
Right.
don't have to pitch, it's always just hold up four fingers.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I think we should come up with something more creative, something more interesting.
pitcher needs to throw the ball over the backstop or something. You know?
Yeah, that's the sign. But yeah, and the low strike is being amended. Now there's something in technology, the K zone.
Right.
And that's been helpful for measuring umpires and trying to improve the human element. But are we Quest Tech was with us for a minute and no one seemed to like that. But are we going to get to the point where the strike zone is going to be laser measured?
There are people that argue that all referees, umpires, any official should be robots. I mean,
Right.
you look at what.
And it is a convincing argument. I, as
Right.
a purist traditionalist, think the umpire is,
There are so many great umpires in
Right.
history. I'm serious.
Enrico Palazzi being the best.
I mean, Bill Clem laying on the ground next to Casey Stengel when Stengel acts like he's fainted, and so Bill Clem gets on the ground with him. I mean,
Cowboy Joe West.
Augie Donatelli. So no, I in baseball, I still want the umpires, and I don't mind them making mistakes.
Well, with all of this VR technology and robots and the whole thing, let's go to the outfield for a second. When an outfielder is tracking a ball to catch it, the human brain is making untold amounts of calculations in, fractions of nanoseconds to be able to understand, I need to move to this spot at this speed, and the arc of the ball is traveling in such a way where it will be here once I get there. It's so far beyond what a robot could calculate. So if you've got a robot umpire, it might just slow down and not be able to really process anything. Are those in favor of the robot umpire really getting an improvement if something like that is implemented?
Well, we see what they've done in tennis. That has seemingly improved tennis.
So fair and foul balls.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, there are, and the K zone and stuff would.
Sure.
So, but in terms of plays on the field, I don't. I still want to see a phantom tag of second base. I believe in the neighborhood play.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want an umpire out there.
Yeah,
But I am old school. I hardly ever support change until I never wanted to go to division play. I didn't want wild cards. I didn't want, and I'm wrong on all of those,
Yeah. I mean, the toothpaste is out of the tube for
Right.
one thing, but yeah, it would be hard pressed to disagree that the one game wild card of the last 4 years is, I mean, it's been exciting.
Right,
It's been a great thing.
I'm sure a pirate.
That hurts, man. It just hurts. All of Pittsburgh Nation's just hurting right now.
I hurt with them.
I do too. I want to. Well, Andrew McCutchen would love to see him play in an NLCS at the very least. Would love to see him in a World Series, and with that team, because the Pirates have been such a great team for these 3 years. They keep getting balanced in a great organization. Now, Andrew McCutchen, an MVP, could be a Hall of Famer. We'll have to see. He says that his secret to hitting success is getting in a cage and hitting.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's going to be the secret of anybody's.
so
You can sit and watch all the film and everything you want, but you've actually got to get out there and do it.
Right,
You've
and-
got to get the blisters on your fingers.
Amen. And with the VR technology that Tampa Bay has, and they're trying to keep it on the down low. They don't want the secret getting out to the other teams. But this it's called the iCube. You're not actually holding a bat.
Right.
You have VR glasses and you see the simulation, the hologram pitch, and you see the break and all these things, but you're not actually swinging a bat and feeling the contact and so on and so forth. So, I mean, who should be investing in all of this fancy whiz-bang technology?
Only major leaguers. I mean, professional ball players. You need, as Andrew McCutchen is right, you need the the muscle memory. You've got to go out there and swing the bat. You can look at a pitch all you want, but if your swing is a vicious part or something,
it's a violent action,
right? And who knows if it may be that your head is moving or that you're turning. Or that you're picking it up with your weak eye rather than your strong eye. And that can all change when you're swinging the bat. So there are all sorts of tools that can help, but it's practice is.
We talking about practice?
Yeah.
That's a great documentary too, by the way. Iverson, available on Netflix. Netflix should give us an endorsement. I think when you get to the major league level, as far as tweaking specific things, I infinitely see the value of being able to actually see a full simulation of Clayton Kershaw's curveball. But I think, from ages little league to through college, just go out there and practice.
And I can't, maybe I'm overusing the term muscle memory, but I know that I knew what my son was going to do every time he stepped to the plate because I understood his swing. I watched it from day one. We, in Atlanta, the best hitter we've had here in the last couple of decades, whenever he went into any kind of slump or something, he would call his father, and Chipper's father would had kind of a magic way of turning Chipper around.
Brian McCann, same way.
It's always been a father-son type of game, but it's knowing that swing and knowing the body that is making that swing and whatnot. So it does. There are no shortcuts to greatness.
That is true.
That was trite.
Well, it's appropriate, though. Yeah. And we're almost coming into home. But just a last question on performance and technology here. With all the different tools available, all the different measurements of performance, so on and so forth, who does the technology benefit the most? Is the advantage with being a hitter or being a pitcher?
All right. I think as I've said before, I think the greatest technological advancement is the Tommy John surgery. However, that may have made more pitchers just throw max gas all the time. And you've got everybody trying to hit 97, 98 miles an hour. And you see, it used to be maybe one person on a team would throw that fast. Now there may be one person on a staff of 14 or 13 that does not throw that hard.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not, and I don't believe in throwing that hard is necessarily going to make you better. Now, I don't want to go up and try and hit a 97 mile an hour fastball, but I wouldn't be able to hit Greg Maddux either at 88, so and he pitched a lot longer, than most people do, and didn't blow out his arm. And so I'm not. I
don't think he went on the DL until I think 2005 or
real
6.
Late,
something. Yeah, real late.
Mm-hmm. And same thing was true with Glavine. And so I'm not sure things have helped pitchers, but psychologically pitchers haven't caught up with that help. The same thing, hitters. You want to hit the ball hard. Now things have turned the hitter into more power hitters. The small game has been lost somewhat, but a lot of that has to do with the bats and the way they're tapered and all of that sort of thing. But I think it's the surgery element that's helped pitchers more than anything else. But
yeah, well, I think outside of the conditioning and medical technology like Tommy John surgery, or certainly proper legal,
right.
In performance cocktails of medicine or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say,
right?
As far as technology and the craft itself, I think the advantage is big time with the hitters. I mean, just that VR machine alone, the true benefit of it is that, you're seeing exact break and speed of different types of pitchers instead of it just coming out of the same hitting coach day in and day out or the same pitching machine. So I think the pitching side of life needs to get their own VR machine where you're seeing specific types of hitters.
Oh, and I totally agree with that, because on the mound, you can see where to throw the ball better than you can anywhere else. Catchers have a knack and can see the way somebody is standing, holding the bat, where their strength is when they are squeezing the bat and all this sort of stuff. And catchers have a unique way of looking at it, but on the mound you have a better idea of what to throw by just the way he looks at the plate. You can sense it, you can feel it. I wasn't a pitcher, but I mean, it's there. So yes, that kind of technology can work both ways. But I mean, because right now, I mean, most films of hitters are not front on, not from the pitcher's mound. So it's either from behind or the side. So yeah, I mean but the VR stuff is not the training. I mean, what they have done with vitamins and muscle training and so, I mean, your weights and things, resistance, strengthening muscles so they don't tear, and all the stuff. It's Herzog said years ago that there were so many more people on the DL than when he played. Like nobody went on the DL back in the day. And he said because athletes today are fine-tuned instruments. They are, and there's a lot of stress on all of these muscles and everything.
Sure.
And so it's like a violin chord that has been pulled too tight. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, and hence the injuries.
Right. Oh yeah, tremendous amount more.
And they were just so tightly wound that they just snap. Well, it's certainly fun to watch. Broadcast now with the exit velocity and the K zone and all these different things. And who hasn't cheered when 100 goes up on the radar gun? So I like that it's there. Always have. So, Bob Feller, that was impressive. I don't know if that's the best way to conclude this discussion, but, we'll just see where it goes. Technology is constantly evolving past what anyone can foresee at this moment. So in 2025, are we watching robots playing baseball?
No.
Good. I don't want that. All right. So coming into home, we lost over the weekend one of the prominent figures of North American sports. I would put him on the sports Mount Rushmore prominently, maybe only second to Babe Ruth. But Muhammad Ali, the greatest, passes away over the weekend. Coach, you watched him in person. I sadly...
No, I never saw him in person.
But a broadcast?
Oh, yeah, I saw a broadcast. Yeah,
right,
but
that's what I
never
mean.
went to a fight that he was in.
You actually saw him fight live. Yeah. So give me your greatest memory, your impression of him, your thoughts on the man.
Well, I mean...
I guess start with, is he the greatest of all time?
As a boxer, I would say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Boxing is nothing today. With Ali, certainly may have been the most recognizable person in the history of the world. Somebody who could go into little huts in Africa and everybody would know who he is. Somebody who could go to Kiev in the Ukraine and they would know who he is. And, it wouldn't matter. They may not know the president, or the president of their own country, but everybody knew Ali.
Right.
He was a tremendous athlete. And that's what people forget.
Right.
He when he came back from the 3-year deal where he was suspended 3.5 years or whatever, he completely changed. It became, a different type of boxer. It had to because he had lost some of the speed. And to be able to change that way, and just incredibly intelligent, his and by all accounts, a great man. I certainly enjoyed him forever. One of the things that I will, for me personally, Ali made me aware of who Malcolm X was.
Right.
I mean, and I didn't really. I mean, I'd heard the name or something, but it's opened up my eyes to a lot of things. Irony that he called Cassius Clay his slave name when Cassius
Right.
Clay was, an abolitionist who was killed by a slaver. The original Cassius Clay.
Right.
A great man, a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. As far as, I, of course, you and I together were here in 96. He lights the
Right.
the Summer Olympic torch. Incredible moment. Especially to see how ravaged he was with Parkinson's. What do you take on what he means to the advancement of treatment for Parkinson's?
Well, apparently he and Michael Fox have raised millions of dollars together.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. I think it's, and that's sad because, the sad part of his Parkinson's is that that's what people know him as. Most there aren't, he's had that for 30 years, or had it for 30 years. And most people today didn't see Muhammad Ali play.
Yeah.
Or box.
Yeah. Yeah. Compete as it is. I certainly, sadly think of him more as the tremendous figure, battling Parkinson's, but the amount of adulation, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Adulation for Ali across not just sports, but in politics and pop culture. He is, to me, on the Mount Rushmore of North American sports next to like Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, and then, I don't know, you could rotate in a Jim Brown or someone for the fourth spot. Would you have him prominently on your sports Mount Rushmore?
The only problem I would have with that is I don't know. Yes, I would. But the is because boxing. I don't know if I put do I put Secretariat's head up there?
It's a good argument. Interestingly enough, I had Tiger Woods on there for a long time, and I don't think you could do that anymore.
No. You're gonna put Tiger Woods there before Jack Nicklaus,
right? Exactly.
Or Arnold Palmer, or
Yeah. Well, if you're going by the metric of who is most recognizable in more parts of the world, at one time Tiger Woods was.
At one time, Arnold Palmer was the most photographed person in the history of the world.
Right.
At one point, because we don't even have sports pages like we used to, but you would have, after a Masters, or a big deal golf tournament, there would be pages of pictures of him, and nobody was photographed more than Palmer. And he was, that's back when newsprint was a big deal, and he was around a lot longer than a president or something.
Right. And of course, before that,
except Roosevelt.
Right. And of course, before that, Babe Ruth.
Well, Babe Ruth is, he's number one.
He's number one. All right. So, favorite Ali quote to take us out?
Oh, I don't know that. I'd have to really review them to think of
the one that Jalen Rose said and Mark Jackson on the finals broadcast, that Ali saying, "I'm so fast I can turn off the light switch and be in bed before it gets dark." I think that's pretty great.
Yeah, but that was something that Satchel Paige said about Cool Papa Bell way before. That's where Ali heard it. I don't. That one.
Bit apocryphal,
yes,
if you will.
He's a lot. He has a lot of quotes that were,
improperly credited to him.
Oh no! He has a lot that he said that were that are significant enough not to take one that he stole.
Oh, right. I get what you're saying. Well, maybe for next time we'll have a list of the top 10. But definitely, it's been a tough year, 2016, for just pop culture icons. But definitely the loss of Muhammad Ali, that is a big hole in the sports landscape. So float like a butterfly for eternity.
Right.
Well, of course, thank you to everyone watching us on our YouTube channel, listening to us on SoundCloud and on iTunes. You can find all things Running the Bases at our website, runningthebases.com. Leave your feedback, leave your comments, tell us what you would like Coach and I to talk about, what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right. So for Coach Bounds, I'm Tucker Wells. This is the Running the Bases podcast. We're coming into home and we're safe, Coach. Good to see you again. Have a good night.
Good night.